Okay, here's part 2 of how I use iClickers in my classroom. So I looked at a couple of ways that I use it for polling, for gathering information, and maybe sparking some discussion to help clarify the information that I'm gaining. This use here, shown here, is strictly as a quiz tool where there's a right answer, there's a wrong answer, or multiple wrong answers. And as you can imagine, these questions have to go up quickly. I do need to keep my eyes on the class to make sure that they aren't whispering answers to each other. So these quizzes go rather quickly. I don't make them real wordy. And of course, I have to just kind of use the honor and the trust system. The way that the iClickers work is that whatever the last A, B, C, D, or E, whatever the last button is that they push, that's the last answer that is recorded. So if they realize they were wrong, they can correct it and make it right. So you can see here, this is just a real quickie quiz with questions from Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Did some recognition, true and false. This was very much a quick subjective quiz. And again, the thing that kids love about it is that after they've answered the question, then there's the immediate feedback of knowing whether they got the right answer or got the wrong answer. And, you know, in a case like this, nobody knows who the one student is who missed it unless they, of course, they call out and go, "Oh, I thought it was Osnance," in which case, you know, they're simply seeking attention. And on this one, it looks like everybody did reasonably well. I don't do iClicker quizzes on a real regular basis, partly because they do take quite a bit of time to write, but they're very quick in class, for a class saving purpose more than anything else. And also, of course, the fact that they are graded, and all I have to do is quickly glance at the iGrader screen, quickly record the scores in my gradebook, and I'm done. All right, here's another use that I developed, and it's kind of a hybrid between actual quiz questions where they do need to give the right answer, or they'll miss the opportunity for a point, but then I switch back and forth between quiz questions and opinion questions. And as you'll see from the next question, or response question, it may not be opinion, it might be response, I highlight that more objective question in red. So this is an example of a question that they have to give an actual answer to. And I chose this one because I just had a feeling that nobody had looked up penance or penitence, and this is a very important point in the book. And knowing the difference between these words and knowing what the actual answer is could become a crucial skill. It's the kind of thing that my AP students need to be looking for and recognizing, hang on, this is the kind of question that might show up on AP multiple choice, and it might even be the kind of thing I could write about in an essay, to be able to compare and contrast penance with penitence and demonstrate through the text what the actual answer is. It could be a really useful thing to know rather than just go blowing by. So that's why the next question was, I already knew the difference between penance and penitence. Well, you see, nobody in this particular class actually did. I looked up or asked someone the difference between penance and penitence, and you can see only 2 students did that. Exactly what is the difference between penance and penitence other than the spelling? And that was a full 12. And so, of course, we had a good laugh, but the students who got it right because they kind of remembered, but not because they really understood the concept. And so it was a good opportunity for me to point out the importance of slowing down enough. I mean, that's the whole point of AP English Lit and Comp. It's not to pass an exam. It's not to go flying through the work. It is to read deeply. It's to reread as necessary and to use their tools to get out the dictionary, to get out the thesaurus, and to learn what is the difference between penance and penitence, and then to use that information in a discussion, to use it in their writing, and just to use it in their worldview from here on out. It's not about how fast can you get the one right answer. At least that's my belief. And so using the iClickers elicited not only this level of instantaneous honesty, but then once we all laughed and everybody admitted that that's the situation they were in, we were able to have some good discussion about learning strategies. And I was able to talk turkey about the fact that I don't teach to the test, and that's just not my philosophy for the class. Okay, and here's a quiz question. and they need to be able to perceive Hawthorne's attitude. Does Hawthorne agree with Dimmesdale or disagree with Dimmesdale? And so you can see their answers here. And then the question is, do they agree or disagree? In this case, this year's class seemed to be pretty much on par. I've had other classes where they completely reverse on this question. They totally disagree with what they perceive Hawthorne to be saying. Here is one on feelings. Here we go. This one did show up as an opinion because I knew that the kids would struggle with this one. Based on the story thus far, Hawthorne believes passion is sin. I was glad that just over half the students had perceived that that's a no, but I didn't expect them to be 100% sure at this point in the book. And so it gave us a good chance to discuss what's the evidence from the book. And it's not just passion, it's unbridled passion, it's unruly passion, it's passion that breaks man's laws and God's laws. That's what he has trouble with. Then some more factual questions. Oh, who does Hawthorne consider to have committed the worst sin? Most of the students recognize this. And then, here we go. Dimmesdale asks Hester to think for him and be strong for him. And that it actually is true. And then comes a question that every year is my favorite. In a healthy relationship, the man will blank ask the woman to think for him and be strong for him. Now, this is opinion, so they can answer whatever they want. Never, rarely, occasionally, frequently, or often. Well, you can see they're all over the place. And so after I give a question like this, I would invite my extremes. The four, and of course, nobody else in the room knows who those four are. I could if I wanted to look it up, but this is the time when the anonymity is so valuable, because any of these may choose to respond or they may choose to stay silent and see where the discussion goes. Generally, this question is one that triggers such a response from all the students that they want to say what's on their mind. And so the four nevers have it out with the two oftens, and then the frequently jumps in and the occasionally jumps in, and then we end up with a lot of fun discussion. Last year, one of the young men who was in this category who said nobody ever thinks for a man. A man will never ask another human being to think for him, let alone a woman. Whew! Whew. The discussion really went fun after that. So anyways, and again, I don't do this all the time. I don't always go back and forth between quiz questions and discussion questions, but the kids love it when I do, and they beg for me to do it more often. And then this one shows what ended up being kind of a discussion with a little bit of a debate twist to it. I had the students come in. This was my English 4 class, and we had already finished Hamlet. Had them sit in a semicircle, and then I had 2 pairs volunteer to be in the hot seats, which were in the center of the room. And so they had to answer the question, and then the 2 pairs had to spend a few minutes listening to everybody else and chatting between themselves, and they had to defend the most unpopular view. So here, Hamlet loved Ophelia. This particular class felt strongly that he did. So once they had a chance to explain their reasoning, and again, drawing evidence from the text as to why they thought Hamlet loved Ophelia, then the 2 partners, the 2 pairs of partners in the center, got a chance to disagree and to argue back and to cite evidence from the text that was opposite of that. Hamlet as the hero, you can see that him being a hero was very unpopular, so the 2 pairs of students in the hot seat had to prepare to argue against all the evidence that was presented by those who took a slightly different position. The Claudius one didn't have as much polarization. We had a little disagreement, had some kids choosing an alternate option. Polonius gets what he deserves. This one was always an interesting one every year because some kids really sympathize with him and just think he's a bumbler. Some people think that he's very, very manipulative. And of course, that's what comes out. This was an interesting particular class period because some agreed completely, some disagreed completely. So they got to express themselves. And it was very much like a tennis match. Agree, disagree, agree, disagree. And then the hot seat pairs were able to come in and offer alternative points of view after having heard the debate. So I hope you've seen from both part 1 and part 2 here that I use the iClickers in a variety of different ways to gain information, to quiz, and then my favorite use for them is to spark discussion, to give the students the cloak of anonymity to start with, and then invite them to jump on in and defend and give evidence for their views.